The voicemail came in at 2:17 a.m. There was no caller ID, no number, just a timestamp and a 3-second stretch of silence before the breathing started. Not frantic, not panicked, just slow, controlled. Then a whisper. "Dad, it's not the trail anymore." A sharp crack in the distance, like wood splitting under pressure. And then, very calmly, "It knows my name." The message ended there. "My name is Daniel Harper. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, about an hour south of Grand Canyon National Park. My son, Evan Harper, disappeared in that park 14 days ago. They call it a missing hiker case. But that voicemail wasn't from someone who was lost. It was from someone who had realized something else was walking those trails, and it was walking with him." Evan was 26. Lean, stubborn, thoughtful. The kind of guy who read topo maps for fun and corrected park rangers on geological trivia. He had that calm, outdoorsy confidence that made strangers assume he knew what he was doing. He did know what he was doing. That's what makes this worse. He'd hiked rim to rim twice, camped solo in Utah's backcountry, slept through desert storms in a one-man tent without flinching. When he told me he was doing a 4-day solo loop along a less-traveled corridor on the North Rim, I didn't worry. He left on a Thursday morning. We had breakfast at a diner off Route 66, burnt coffee, scrambled eggs, the usual. "You still hate that I go alone," he said, smiling. "I don't hate it," I told him. "I just prefer knowing where my son is. I'll check in every night, promise." He kept that promise. The first night he texted me a photo of the sunset, red rock glowing like it was on fire. Second night he called, windy, cold, said he heard coyotes howling but they sounded off. "What do you mean off?" I asked. "Just too close together, like they were circling something." "Probably were." "Yeah," he said, but he didn't sound convinced. The third night, nothing. No call, no text. I figured he'd lost service. The fourth morning, the park called me. His truck was still parked at the trailhead, permit on the dashboard, tent and pack not returned. Rangers found his first campsite. Everything was orderly, no sign of struggle. His second campsite was stranger. They found his stove still assembled, a half-eaten protein bar on a rock, his journal open to a blank page, and boot prints, 2 sets. One was Evan's. The other, according to the ranger who later spoke to me, didn't make sense. They weren't animal tracks. They weren't barefoot. They were shoe prints. But the tread pattern didn't match any known hiking brand. And they didn't approach the campsite from the trail. They appeared about 15 feet away, as if someone had stepped out of nowhere. The official explanation was that another hiker had passed through, except no one else had a permit for that section, and no other vehicles were logged at the remote access road. Search and rescue combed the area for a week. Helicopters, dogs, thermal drones. Nothing. Then the voicemail came. The park police confirmed it wasn't spoofed. It came from Evan's phone, but they couldn't determine location data. GPS was disabled during the call. "Phones glitch out there sometimes," the detective told me. I played the voicemail for him in his office. He leaned forward when Evan whispered, "It's not the trail anymore." "What do you think he meant?" the detective asked. I didn't answer, because I already knew. Evan didn't get lost. The trail changed. 3 days after the voicemail, I drove to the North Rim myself. They advised against it. Ongoing search, dangerous terrain, emotional distress, but no one was going to stop me from walking where my son had walked. The forest there is dense, ponderosa pines, thick enough to block the sun. The air smells like sap and dust. When the wind moves through, it doesn't rustle, it hums. I followed the marked trail until I reached his second campsite. Even knowing the coordinates, it took longer than it should have. The trail markers felt inconsistent. A blaze on one tree would point slightly off from the next. Cairns that should have been visible from a distance were hidden behind brush. At one point, I could have sworn the path forked where the map showed a straight line. I chalked it up to nerves. I reached the campsite near dusk. The rangers had cleared most of it, but I recognized the rock where his protein bar had been found. The ground was still scuffed. I stood there listening. No birds, no insects, just wind, then faintly, footsteps behind me. Measured, not running. Crunch, pause, crunch. I turned. Nothing. The forest was empty. "Hello?" I called. My voice felt wrong out there. Too loud, like it didn't belong. Silence returned, thick and suffocating. I told myself it was a deer. But deer don't walk in deliberate, evenly spaced steps, and they don't stop when you stop. I decided to hike back before dark. That's when I realized the trailhead wasn't where I remembered. The path curved differently. Trees I was certain I'd passed earlier weren't there. I checked my compass. It spun, not wildly, just subtly off north. I took out my phone. No service. The sky dimmed fast, the kind of sudden desert twilight that makes everything blue and unreal. Then my phone vibrated. No number. Voicemail. I didn't answer. I just listened as it played. Static. Then my own voice. "Hello?" It was from earlier, when I'd called into the woods. Then, layered underneath it, something else. A second voice, soft, close to the microphone. "Daniel." I dropped the phone. My heart felt like it was trying to punch through my ribs. It wasn't a trick of memory. It wasn't stress. It said my name. The same way Evan had said in the voicemail, "It knows my name." I picked up the phone again. The message was saved, time-stamped 2 minutes in the future. I stared at the screen. That's when I saw movement between the trees. Not a shape, not a person, just the suggestion of someone standing where shadow met shadow. I felt it watching, not hunting, watching, evaluating. I forced myself to speak. "What do you want?" The forest inhaled. Then from somewhere behind me, Evan's voice. "Dad?" I spun around. There he was, about 30 yards away. Same jacket, same backpack, face pale but intact. "Evan!" I ran toward him. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there. As I got closer, something felt off. His eyes, they were focused, but not on me, on something behind me. I slowed. "Evan?" He finally spoke. "You weren't supposed to come." A chill ran through me. "I'm taking you home," I said. He tilted his head slightly. "The trail doesn't go home." The wind picked up. The trees groaned like old wood under strain. I took another step toward him. He didn't step back, but the distance between us didn't shrink. 30 yards, still 30 yards. My breath hitched. I ran, full sprint, and the trees slammed together in front of me. Branches collided like doors shutting. I stumbled back. When I looked again, he was gone. The forest had rearranged itself. The campsite rock was gone. The path was gone. There was no clearing, just dense forest in every direction. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. This time, no delay, just Evan's voice, calm, resigned. "It's easier if you stop walking." Then a second voice overlapped, identical to mine. "He'll stay longer if you run." My knees nearly gave out. It wasn't mimicking random sounds, it was choosing voices that mattered. I understood something then. This wasn't a creature. It was the place, something old inside it. Not an animal, not a ghost, a pattern, a consciousness woven into miles of forest. It didn't drag people away. It adjusted, shifted trails, bent space, whispered names until hikers stepped just slightly off course. Then the map stopped matching. Then the trees grew closer and the exit disappeared. Evan hadn't been followed. He'd been corrected. I felt the ground uneven beneath me, like it was breathing. I thought of the second set of footprints at his campsite, not approaching, appearing. Maybe it didn't walk. Maybe it formed where it needed to, a pair of prints beside his, so he'd think he wasn't alone. The sky darkened completely. I realized I hadn't seen stars, no moon, just canopy, but I hadn't walked that far, had I? I turned in a slow circle. Every direction looked the same. Then ahead I saw a faint glow, like light through trees. Hope surged. I moved toward it carefully. The glow grew stronger, and then I stepped into a clearing. My truck was parked there, engine off, keys in the ignition, driver's door open. Relief flooded me so violently I nearly cried. I climbed in, shut the door. The forest went silent. I started the engine. Headlights flicked on. They illuminated trees directly in front of me, too close. My truck wasn't in a clearing. It was wedged between trunks. Impossible to drive. I turned off the engine slowly. The voicemail icon appeared again. I didn't want to listen, but I did. This time it was Evan crying, real panic. "It won't let me leave, Dad. It says there has to be balance." A long pause. Then, "It says if you stay, I can go." My throat closed. "No," I whispered. The phone crackled, then my own voice again, soft, convincing. "You always wanted him safe." Headlights flickered off. Darkness swallowed the windshield. The trees outside shifted, closer, closer. The truck groaned under pressure, wood pressing against metal. I understood the rule then. It didn't take people randomly, it exchanged them. Every time someone disappeared, someone else eventually wandered off trail. The forest kept its number constant, balance. Evan had been alone, so it kept him, until I arrived. I opened the truck door, stepped out into the dark. The pressure on the vehicle eased instantly. Wind returned. Far in the distance I heard footsteps running. Away, a voice, Evan's, sobbing in relief. "Dad?" But it was farther now, fading. The forest felt satisfied. The ground steadied beneath my feet. The path formed ahead of me, clear, inviting, leading deeper. My phone buzzed one last time. Final voicemail. Evan's voice. Clear signal. No static. "Dad, I'm at the ranger station. They found me near the highway. I don't know how I got here. His breath caught. "I think I saw you walking back into the trees." The message ended. I looked up. The trail ahead narrowed. The trees leaned inward like ribs closing around a lung. Somewhere to my left, something stepped in perfect rhythm with me, not chasing, not hiding, just keeping pace, waiting for me to say its name. I won't, because if I do, it might answer.